Hi everybody, it's Salsa time. The hatch chilies have arrived at Rayleigh's, and if they've arrived at Rayleigh's, I'm sure that they're in other places as well. So why do we call these the hatch? They look just like the California Anaheim, but these are they're grown in New Mexico, Hatch, New Mexico. And the chilies from New Mexico have a really thicker skin. They have much more flavor. They come in mild, medium, and hot. So you got to be careful which ones you get because these are really hot, where the Anaheim chilies are usually sort of mild. But I wanted you to see what the Hatch chili looks like. And this is also, this is called a poblano chili. And you can also make a poblano salsa, which is delicious and has just a little slightly different, kind of more of a, I hate to say fruity, but in the fruit category. It's a little bit sweeter. And so this is what the poblano looks like. Then you have the jalapeno chilies, and these, it just depends. Sometimes they're hot, sometimes they're not. So these are the jalapeno, and these are the serrano chilies. You notice they're completely different. The serranos are usually, I've just been noticing they're gigantic now, but usually they're small, and they can be really, really spicy. So you need to remove the seeds and the veins, which will help cut back on the heat part. You're also going to need tomatoes, and right now these are awesome. These are actually $1.49 a pound right now. They're gigantic. I love them. Usually I end up getting the plum tomatoes because they're small and they're a lot less inexpensive than the tomatoes on the vine. But these were like $1.49 a pound, which I thought was a good deal. You're going to need about this size of an onion, which is a medium size of an onion, and of course you're going to need cilantro. If at all possible, always get organic cilantro. It doesn't have the pesticides, it's cleaner, it I think tastes better. So there's the cilantro. You're also going to need some tomato juice. So I use 1 can of, depending on how much I make, of the tomato juice. We'll also be making the tomatillo salsa, and this is what a tomatillo looks like. It actually comes in this paper husk, and it looks like a green tomato. It's not a green tomato. It's actually a member of the gooseberry family. So you just take off the cover. It has a sticky substance, so you have to rinse it. So you can either cook it or you can make it raw, and today we're going to make the raw salsa. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to start by dicing up the onions and cooking the onions and roasting the tomatoes, and what else? I guess that's it, and then we'll move on with the rest of the salsa. Okay, so now back to the cooked salsa. We're talking about the tomatoes. I always like to, remember, we're looking for a roasted flavor, so I always like to char the tomatoes, and I have this grate that I've had forever and a day, and I just lay it across my burner. If you have an electric burner, obviously you're going to have to do this in the broiler. But all I do is roast it on all sides, and it goes very quickly. So I've roasted this tomato. I'm going to put it in with the rest of my tomatoes, which is right here, and I'm going to be using about 4 of these big tomatoes. Another note about the roasting is, see this chili? This is another chili, and you can roast it as well on top of the grate. Now remember, if you're doing a whole tray full, you don't want to do it this way. But if you're just doing a couple, it works really well. So that's the roasted chili up in here. Okay, so we've broiled the chilies. I'm going to take them out of the broiler right now, and be careful because this pan is very, very hot. Set it down, and this is really what your chilies will look like once they've been roasted on all sides. We're going to put them in a container, like I use this plastic container, just like that. I have asbestos hands, so I'm cool on this. Put them in there. Here we go. All of them go in here, along with the jalapenos that you roasted. Everything goes in here. Then I'm going to take my towel, and I'm going to put it on top, like this. Let's talk about the cilantro for a second. So what I did was I took off the lower part of the stems, and I ran it through water, and then I always lay it out, and I pat it dry. Then I roll it in my paper towel so that it continues to soak up the water. I just set it aside until I'm ready to use it. Okay, so I've been sauteing the onions in a little bit of oil until they get a little brown like this, because they're much better. And then I also threw in a clove of garlic, and you notice it's just big chunks, but that's fine because it's going to be in the blender anyway. So that's all you do until the onions are done, and then we're going to just set them aside until we make the rest of the chili. Okay, so we're getting the tomatoes ready to be put in the blender. In fact, we're going to line up all the ingredients so it goes very smoothly. So you just need to do a rough chop of the tomatoes, just what I'm doing. And don't peel the tomatoes because we want the charred look on the tomatoes. So I'm going to do this to all of the tomatoes. So now we're going to peel the chili, and as you see, I've already peeled a lot of it, but I'm going to show you what you do. So what you do is you, excuse me, by the way, the chili makes you cough sometimes. So I just pull off the top. You notice the seeds came with it. And then you notice the skin, it just peels, look at this, it just peels right off. I love it because it's had a while to steam in under that towel, which I forgot to mention that my mother always sprinkled a little bit of water over the chilies and then put the towel on it. It really helps the steaming. So here we go. So this is what makes what makes chili hot, these seeds and these veins. So these veins just come right off. And so do the seeds. And you notice that I haven't taken all the seeds off. The other thing is that I decided to throw in one of the chilies without removing the charred skin. This is the one that I did over the stovetop. And I just decided just to leave it, and which I like to do, because again, it gives it that charred look. Okay, so we're ready to put the salsa together. So unroll your cilantro. And this is where you get to decide how much cilantro you want. And remember, if you're one of those that have that little gene that hates cilantro, makes the food taste like soap, then you're going to want to use parsley, which will be fine. Not the same, but fine. So here's my bunch of cilantro, and I'm going to put about that much of it. Look at that. That's like a handful. So that's going to go in my blender. Like that, and then I'm going to just blend it down. Here we go. Just to give it a little head start. Okay, now I'm going to throw in all my chili. There's all my chili. Oh, this is what really wants to make me cough, I can tell you. All the chili. Another thing to remember is if you're sensitive to chili, use gloves, because the chili, the capsaicin in the chili will sting, and you don't want to touch any body parts that you love because you will contaminate them. Okay, so I put in all the onion that I'm going to use in there. Again, I'm going to give it another real quick whirl. Hold on. I know it gets loud. All right, next, I always like to, before I add the tomatoes, I do like to kind of push it down. You notice I didn't do it all the way, just a little ways. Those of you with Vitamixers are going to love the whiz of your Vitamixer. All right, I'm getting ready to put the tomatoes in it. So you just have to drop your tomatoes in. Let's see how many tomatoes I can get in there. Hopefully I can get a lot of them. And you know, I may have too many tomatoes. See, that's one of those things that you just don't know. But we're going to give it a try here. And I can always blend these again. Okay, so we're going to put those in there. And put the top back on. And start it. Let it blend. And that's it. Here's what it looks like. See it all blended? Then the next step, I'm just going to use the same container I had the chili in. I'm going to pour it out. Check it out. Look at this. Salsa. Love the salsa. All right. Out comes my crank. I like to not lose any part of my salsa, so this is what I do. Come on. Let's get it all out. I know on a TV show you never see them getting every little last piece out, but I do. Then I use my rubber spatula to scoop out the rest. There we go. There's a lot of it in the blender. All right. Excellent. Okay, so there it is. The next step is to take a lime. Don't forget to roll it first, because that loosens all the juices. Then I like to take my handy dandy lime juicer here, and I squeeze one limeful of lime. One more. I like the tang of the lime. Then I get 1 can of tomato juice. You can buy low sodium tomato juice if you're worried about the sodium. Then all you do is mix it. Sometimes I use 2 cans of tomato juice. It just depends on how my salsa is turning out. And this might need 2 cans, I don't know. Actually, it's pretty good. All right. Then you want to taste it to see if it needs any type of seasonings. And when I say seasonings, I'm talking about any additional salt, any kind of, we haven't even put the pepper in it yet. So I'm going to put the pepper in it. I like to give it a good bunch of pepper. There we go. And there's your salsa. Look at that. It's a perfect salsa. And like I said, if you want to have more tomatoes or more tomato juice, you can add more tomato juice to it. Okay, so we're going to give it a taste. So let me get a little chip. Remember what I told you about breaking up the chips? Your mind doesn't know you're having a lot of chips from one. Okay, so I'm going to taste it. This is how I taste it, because I have no idea if it's hot or what else it might need. Okay. It's delicious. It's hot. It's not intense hot, but it is definitely a medium hot. And I'm going to add another can of tomato juice, only because some members of the family that I'm going to be giving this to won't be able to eat such hot salsa. So I just added some more tomato juice. You could even add more roasted tomatoes if you want, but I had the tomato juice, so that's what I'm going to use. So let's see. And I like the little color that it gives it. So as you can see, this is all ready. So let's give it another taste and see how this one is. Much better. It's really cut the heat factor down, and it's absolutely delicious. And I forgot to also mention this. This freezes absolutely great. So you can freeze it in smaller containers and always have salsa available to you. I really hope you give this a try. Well, I am going to do other salsas, but I'm going to do it on a different video. So I'll see you in a bit.